What's up guys, Justin Phillip here, and today I'm going to be talking about scopes and the importance of using scopes when monitoring for proper exposure on the day of your capture. The real estate little sizzler reel that I put out yesterday, I got a few hits, a few messages sent to me regarding the exposure of the rooms and how I was able to get the windows the way they looked. If you'll look here at this example, you'll notice that my windows are not blown out. Even one guy had asked if I had done some kind of magic in post, like some kind of HDR remapping, color imaging, or something of that nature to get that look. And no, the answer is simply I properly exposed my image. It does help having a camera that has a lot of dynamic range, and I did shoot that video with the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. Now with that being said, that doesn't mean that if your camera doesn't have good dynamic range that you still can't get similar results. However, I'm glad I used it on this particular home. It's a $9 million home, and it was great to get a lot of dynamic range in those rooms, and you can see right through the windows, and especially a house like that had so many windows, so many windows. Even one side of the house was just here. You'll see it's completely wide open. There's not even walls. It's just completely open to the outside. And if you'll notice, I used a Cine lens. I shot the whole thing on a Rokinon 10mm Cine lens. It's a T3.1. But with a Cine lens, you're able to just rack the aperture much like you would rack focus. So as I was turned to the left and looking inside the house, as I panned out to the right, I just simply racked focus. And that's how you can get nice, that's kind of a, I hate to say it, but a quote unquote cinematic look. I'm adjusting exposure in a seamless manner with the declicked aperture where our eyes, you don't even notice it. Whereas if you had a normal photography lens or any kind of lens that's not declicked, let's say you were shooting it on the Sigma 18-35 1.8, that's a great lens. However, if you don't own the $2,000 Cine version, you would notice the aperture opening up as it's tuck, big stops moving out like that. Whereas the way I did it there, you don't even notice. You don't even notice, and you probably didn't even notice until now. I just pointed out to you like, oh yeah, he's adjusting exposure while he's panning. That's one of the plus sides of shooting anything with a Cine lens. You can do this with any camera, okay? And the GH5 was a big deal. When it came out, it came with waveform and vector scope, and that was a big deal. A lot of cameras don't provide vector scope, and some of them don't even provide the waveform. Most cameras do not, especially in terms of mirrorless cameras, video cameras. That's why I highly suggest investing in a good monitor like an Atomos or a small HD, where it provides lots and lots of scopes. Now this is a prime example here. We have a window directly behind our gal here. Now this is going to be a little bit tricky. And this may be a situation where you may have, like right now you can see my zebras are cha-cha-cha. But now my zebras are set at, and you'll see I have them set at 95%. Now that's kind of a good danger zone. That's kind of standard for, yeah, that's danger. 95 is a really good spot. That's a sweet spot. I don't want to adjust exposure with ISO. Once you know what your camera's native ISO is, I highly recommend you stay on that native ISO. And then here is your vector scope. Now this is a big deal. I like to use the vector scope when getting proper for proper white balance and things. See here, this is where it's zoomed out, but if you push in, now we know, okay. Now a cool feature about this, and I talked about this a little bit in the unboxing video. I'm gonna go handheld here for a minute, so excuse me here, because what we're gonna do is, I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna be doing on the Blackmagic and I'll show you, okay, so pretty much, you can go here to your white balance, right? You have the white balance, just for the sake of 5700. And you'll notice down here on the Blackmagic, this is the tint. This is the tint button. And as you start pressing this, now if you watch on the Shinobi, while I'm adjusting the tint, see how that vector scope is moving there? And that's dialing in the tint of your white balance. And generally what you want to do is get it right in these crosshairs. See, right in there. See, that's pretty good. It's adjusting that tint. That's the tint meter right next to your white balance in your Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera. And now when you're over here, you see how well that's centered in the middle? It's right in the middle. I don't know if you can make out those crosshairs. Hold on. Right there. You see those crosshairs? Now you'll see it better when I tap out. Sorry for the weird handheld stuff. Okay. Now you've really dialed in for white balance and skin tones. So to the right is the RGB histogram, and to the left is your waveform monitor. That waveform monitor, to me, is one of the #1 most important things when it comes to exposure. But we can get actually outside of the multi setting. If you just click right here, you can see a better idea of it. There you can see it all across your screen, and you can really see what's going on with your image. Now you see this area here where the wall is? This area here where the wall is, you know, it's around 40, which is good. And then this whole section here is literally what we're looking at. You see how it coincides with the screen? This is literally what we're looking at. And here you can see our woman's face is literally right where the waveform is dipping around there, and you'll see the leaves. You can actually watch the leaves blowing around in the background. You see how the waveform is moving right here? If you look up, you'll notice, yeah, the leaves are moving. So it's literally exactly goes across your entire image. And here you see over here, these are really peaking. You'll notice right here, these are peeking out. But if you notice up here, we do have zebras. They're a little out of focus with this trying to see the zebras. That's why down there on your waveform, it's going all the way up to 100. Because you got zebras going on there. And remember, we set our zebras to 95. But here we can see it's actually way up. It's tabletopping at 100. This is bad. This is what you don't want to happen. You don't want to tabletop at 100, and you don't want to tabletop at the bottom. So what I generally like to do, I like to preserve both my highlights and my shadows. So now I got my declicked aperture, and we're going down, down, down. Now this is the Rokinon Cine 35. Now see, as we drop down, you'll see what's happening. We're losing light on our gal. But that's not necessarily, now there, obviously that's crushed. That's a big no-no as well. So now what you've gotten, we've completely exposed for the outside and not exposed for the inside, obviously. So we're gonna slowly crank this up, and what we wanna do is just find a happy medium. Now look at that. Now this isn't too bad, actually. So now on the GH5, it looks like she's completely gone, but she's not. She's actually not. She is actually there. But what we can do is we can dial it up a tad more. So right there, actually, you can see here, let me see if I can adjust the exposure on the GH5. There you go. Now you can see what's really going on. Now, you just have to cut your losses because this is an extreme situation here. You'll see here, it is definitely still peeking out on that right side, but it's not, I mean, you know what I mean? You just have to find that sweet spot where you say, how much do you want to lose? How much can you get away with losing? And it actually does not look nearly as bad in person as it's showing on the GH5 there. But it's just a matter of adjusting this. See, now if I go too far this way, now you go, oh wow, you completely lost detail. Now she looks good, but your background's shit. So you just have to find the good medium. And right there is where it is. Right? Ideally, that's where you want to live. And now if we go here and we click on this, look at that. But see, you still have plenty of detail saved in her and the outside. And this can all be saved in post. At least this way, you're not completely blown out. And you can afford to be a little dark on the inside because it's so simple to bring that back when you are doing the color grading. Now, if you were doing something, now this is for a run and gun situation, right? But if this was a narrative thing, all I would do is simply swing my light over around and get some light on our talent. So I would keep walking that back. I would actually swing it around about a 45-degree angle, more of an interview style. And now look at that. Now we got a really nice image. So there you go. And we still have all of our detail. So what I'm gonna do, because I'm gonna do a series of these, I'm gonna show you guys how you can fix this stuff. So what I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna put it back where we were. I'm gonna turn this off and we're gonna readjust for her. Let's say this was a run and gun style shoot where we were trying to preserve the detail in the outside. I'm gonna crank this just a tad. You see there, just a little bit. I just wanna save my girl right there. Now you'll notice, fudge, man, I'm really losing the outside, right? If I click on my zebras, but it's really not that bad. They're there. I mean, this is like a terrible example here because it is so damn hot out there on those trees, right? But you gotta just kind of find the sweet spot. That's what's so great about having Cine lenses, guys. With the declicked aperture, you can just slowly, you see I'm just slowly rotating that aperture open. And I'm just going, man, where can I find the sweet spot? Right here is pretty dang good. So I am risking being blown out there. But look, I'm gonna capture her on the Blackmagic. So, because tomorrow's video, I'm gonna show you how we can bring her up in post and make it so, you know, it's not so bad. And while it's rolling here, I'm gonna drop this down just a little bit more. I'm gonna probably go about right there. That's a little more on her. And I'm still rolling. And now I'm gonna come back this way. And now she's even darker. We probably put it about right there. I think that's the sweet spot right there. Yeah. Okay. And I can show you how you can actually preserve this, bring her back, and still be able to see what's going on outdoors. Now, for example, so I've stopped recording on the Blackmagic. Now, for example, if most people, what they do, they go here and they go, oh yeah, let me expose for my girl, and they do this. Now you're just fucked. This is shit. This is shit. You look at that and you go, wow, yeah, it's nothing out there, you know? And that's what you don't want. You just want to dial it in and say, where's the sweet spot? To me, that's the sweet spot. And some people are going to look at this. Now, I will admit on the GH5, she looks way darker than what it actually is. And in tomorrow's video, we'll be in on the computer and you'll see like, oh yeah, she wasn't that dark. The GH5 is, you know, I'm recording a screen, you know what I'm saying? But she's really not as bad as what's being shown on camera here, as being here in person, actually looking at the Shinobi monitor. However, she is a little, here, actually, a good way to show you guys is just to look at, here you can really see what's going on with the image. And this is why I was really baffled by someone on the forums yesterday was saying like, I don't use scopes, I get by fine without them. And I just thought, how the hell are you getting by fine without scopes? I mean, what, you're just looking, look at the difference. I'm looking at her and I'm going, oh yeah, wow, she's dark, that's way too dark. But look, you open up the waveform and you go, wait a second, she's not that dark. This is telling me that she is completely salvageable in post, completely able to, you know, without completely losing your background, and I'm still able to save her in post. Now look, while watching the scopes, if you wanted to say, no way, man, we got to expose for her, well, look what happens. Not only did I just lose all detail behind her, but now she's even way above the middle line. She's way up here now, and that is too much, guys. That is you're just looking at an overly overexposed image. This is the sweet spot where you want to live. This is telling me she's still salvageable in post. Let me record this so we can have this for tomorrow to refer to. You know, this is the sweet spot. This is why it's so important to be looking at these scopes and see what the hell is really going on with your image. You can't just do these things by the naked eye, because your eye is going to lie to you. And all of our eyes are different. My eyes, I have a weird color blindness, and it messes with the way that I see colors. And other people, I mean, everyone's eyes, they're like snowflakes, right? That's the way I like to look at it. So the only thing we can rely on is the science. And guys, the scopes is the science, you know? The scopes is the science of the image. All right, so we're gonna stop rolling on that. Now, while the camera's still rolling, I'm gonna turn on this forebank. And now you'll see, oh yeah, now this is ideal. This is what I would do for like an interview setting. Let's say they demanded you shoot in front of that window, right? They say, no, the interview has to happen in front of that window. So now I have my scopes on, I turn my forebank on, and now we're just gonna slowly start playing around with our aperture again and just see, okay, yeah, this looks pretty good actually. You know, there we go. Yeah, if someone made me come in here and film in front of this window, now again, it looks like way more shit on the GH5 than what I'm actually looking at, but we can clearly see here, just take a reference at this. Now, yeah, it is showing a little bit, but you know, like I said, you gotta cut your losses sometimes. I would argue with you that if I was forced to shoot here, I would rather shoot there than do something like this. You know, now that is crazy. You know, it's all crazy. But if you come down here, and you could even play with going lower if you really wanted to. Now, ideally, in a real situation, this is actually what I would do. Now, if I was able to really shoot an interview in here, I would say, okay, this is proper exposure. Now all we gotta do is light my gal up. You know what? If you guys just have to shoot in front of this window, I would restage it to where she's like this, right? And then we would come over and we would frame it like this. So that way you're not shooting directly into a reflective surface and you're not, you know, blowing out behind you. And I would say, no, no, no. This is what we got to do. I would position her over here. I would use the light coming out of this window as a nice backlight, natural backlight. You have this light as your fill light now, and you can still clearly make out what's going on behind her, and you see her and she's well lit. And yeah, so that's, you know, you can play around with things like that. It's all about the positioning of your camera, reading those scopes, and not killing your shadows on the inside and not losing your highlights on the outside. Okay guys, so there you go. That's just a little, I mean, that's kind of the worst example I could give you, but you know, I mean, that is the reality of run and gun situations. Sometimes you are gonna have terrible, terrible situations just like that as an example. But tomorrow what we're gonna do is I'm gonna throw it into Premiere even. I mean, you don't have to have DaVinci, even though I don't know why you wouldn't, because it is completely free, the light version. But I get it, before I was given the full free version with the Blackmagic, I never really used it either. And I get it, like if you're loyal to Premiere, I can show you, you can still get similar results. There are very similar tools within Lumetri. Premiere has been stepping up their game when it comes to color grading, and I can show you how you can bring it all back as long as it's not lost. Basically, when things start tabletopping at 100, between 90 and 100 on your waveform, you're done. You know, especially with you know, mirrorless cameras that don't have a whole lot of dynamic range, it's gone. It's just shot. It's no longer available to you to try to fix that. So that's why you want to try to preserve those as much as possible. But even in a Blackmagic, you know, especially when shooting in Vlog or S-Log or these log profiles, you really want to make sure and have your shadows, you know, living somewhere between 5 and 15. You know, don't let them drop. Once they start dropping below 10 and 5, it's going to start, it's hard to lighten it back up. It's going to get noisy. And the same on the other spectrum. You know, once you start peaking out, whoa, 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 you know, we're hitting here at 90. Once it's gone, guys. You can't bring it back unless you're shooting in RAW, okay? So tomorrow we'll look at that and I'll show you guys how beneficial using the scopes in post are to you, just as beneficial as they are when you're capturing your image. Okay guys, as always, thank you for watching. Big shout out and thank you to all of my loyal subscribers, and that's a wrap.